real estate stuff, but it's also going to deal
Our
with
life.
business, right? How do you scale your business? And so whether you want to be a wholesaler, I heard, or multifamily, or some people are just kind of here to learn and figure out what they want to do. What I'm going to talk to you about today is from my experience of taking my business from zero, from having 20K in the bank when I first started real estate investing, to now having 8 figures worth of real estate. So I want to teach you how to do the same thing if you want to do the same thing. I want to teach you how to scale. And look, everybody scales at different level. Some of you might be here going, well, I don't really want that, right? I don't need that much. I just want 50K, 100K, whatever it is, of passive income. And that's fine. But we got to learn how to do that so we can take ourselves out of the business as much as we possibly can. So we still want to scale in that aspect. So doesn't matter where you're at today, I want to teach you how to do that. It's through my own experience, and I've got a podcast too, and it's through hundreds of people that I've talked to that are extremely successful, and I've learned what they've done as well. So, all right. So a little bit about me real quick. I don't want to spend a ton of time because a lot of you know who I am, but I am the owner of Venture D Properties. We buy multifamily properties, syndicate them, value add. We're buying in several different states. I also have a podcast called Pillars of Wealth Creation. So if you have not listened to my podcast or have not subscribed, Pillars of Wealth Creation, I'd love to have you there listening. And of course, give me a 5-star rating and review. Matt's also helps me out with the podcast. Say hi to Matt. Jordan's going to be on the podcast. Well, you were already on the podcast when I was in Europe. You helped me out. But I'm going to interview him. What is that? Next week or the week after? Sometime soon,
like that, yeah.
right?
Something like calendar.
Yeah. I also do some coaching. So if you want to talk to me about that, what that looks like, we can definitely talk about that. Husband, father of 2 amazing kids, and I'm an avid outdoorsman and sports enthusiast. So. And that's us in Europe this summer. We were in Belgium right there. So there's my PowerPoint skills. All right. I started as a high school shop teacher, and that's what I said. If you want to start this business, you can. It doesn't take millions of dollars to start. It does take money, but I started with very little. I did a lot of 1 to 4 family rentals. I did a lot of flips, some wholesales. I did 150 plus flips. I bought a ski resort, mobile home park, did some developments, done some seller financing. I've seller financed a 120-unit apartment complex. And I've done, and I'm doing currently multifamily syndication. So that's just a little bit about who I am. All right, so let's get into some meat and potatoes. First things first, you guys are here for a reason, right? Is to educate yourself. And that is extremely important. We want to educate ourselves not only in real estate, but I want you to educate yourselves in business and with your mindset. Your mindset's going to be the largest portion of whether you can be successful in this or not. It's mindset, 100%. We got tons of books, podcasts, internet forums. We mentioned Bigger Pockets already. We got videos, YouTube, Audibles. I mean, there's so much information out there. There's no reason you can't learn. There's also meetups like this. We've got a conference that some of you attended, North Star Real Estate Conference. That's coming back into Minneapolis in April 24th and 25th. So write that down too. It's nreconference.com, nreconference.com. You guys will want to be there. It's 2 days of just tons of information thrown at you, and you're going to get an amazing amount of value with it. Coaches, courses, just whatever you do, learn about this business, learn about real estate. Make sure you're continually obsessing with it. And are you getting better every day? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are you getting just a little bit better, 1% better every single day? And if you are, it's the compound effect, right? Anybody read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy? It's the compound effect. That little bit continues to build. It's just like you're rolling a snowball, right? It just continues to build. You have to have, if you want to scale big, you have to become obsessed. Right? If you want to scale big, you need to find your why. And if you don't want to scale big, you still have to find your why. Like, what's driving you to do this? Because if you're going to be owning real estate, you're going to be trying to grow your real estate portfolio. It's maybe sounds sexy on the surface, but it's not as sexy of a business as what we'd maybe like to think, right? There are some pitfalls that are going to happen along the way. Sometimes things aren't going to go right. Even if you're passively investing in a syndication and you're passively investing, things sometimes do go wrong, right? And so there are things we have to understand why we're doing this business. We have to dig deep. And I think it's Dean Graziosi in Millionaire Secrets, or Secrets of, I think it's called Millionaire Secrets. He talks about peeling it back 7 layers deep about your why. Ask yourself, why do I want to, build this business? And so why do you want to have whatever, $10 million worth of real estate, $100 million, whatever it is? Okay, why? And then you ask yourself again, on that answer, why? And you continue to peel it back until you really get to the core. He says it takes 7 times where you're finally like, that's it. Because we all think on the surface. So really figure out what's your passion, what's your burning desire. And then the next thing is stop wasting time on the BS. Quit that stuff out. When I started this business, actually even before, when I first was like, I want to do something great, I stopped watching TV. I cut it completely out of my diet. And it's amazing how much time that saves you. And continue to take inventory. Just recently, I was like, something's going on. I don't feel like I'm that productive during the day, or feel like I'm losing production. And I took inventory, and I found that I was taking my phone out, and I don't even know why, just like checking sports scores and like stats and stupid crap like that. I'm going, what am I doing this for? This is just wasting my time. Who cares what any of these sports athletes are doing? I don't. It's not affecting me in a positive or negative way. So why spend time on it, right? So cut the BS out. We got all kinds of distractions. Everything's trying to pull you in. You've got to blanket that out. What's your end game? Where do you want to take this thing? Like I said in the beginning, everybody's got a different goal in mind. My goal is to positively affect thousands of people. Well, in order to do that, I need to build a large real estate company, right? I want to build a real estate company with 10,000 or more multifamily units. I want to build something large. That doesn't mean you have to. Like I said, you might want to build $100K worth of passive income. But you have to know where that end game is in order to figure out what you need to do today. So figure out where you're going and then dissect it back. Okay, I want to be here. I want to have 10,000 units. What does that look like in 5 years? Okay, what does that look like a year from now, 6 months from now, a quarter, a month, a week? We can really dig in and figure out, okay, how do I actually get there? So break it down, dissect it. If you can dissect it, it allows you to really achieve it. And you have to write it down. All of this stuff that I've talked about, you have to write down. If you haven't written it down already, you've got to write it down. This is huge. It's so easy to lose focus. I do it. Everybody does it. It's so easy to lose focus. So pay attention right now to me. You should be looking at me. It's just, there's so many distractions that are out there, right? It's just crazy how many obstacles come your way, right? And we have to make sure we're focused, because if you're not, you're going to get sucked in by the stuff that doesn't matter, right? Focus is follow one course until success. Follow one course until success. I did this presentation at the North Star Real Estate Conference. And that was, I think I spoke on Saturday morning. And on Sunday, I went to church, and the pastor was talking about focus. And this was not in my slideshow. And I had to add this because it was just like, whoa. I totally missed out on this part of the success formula, is the focus. And he talked about this stuff, is you've got to be attentive, right? If I'm talking to you, are you attentive? Are you listening? Are you focused? Anybody here married? Have you ever once, like, your wife or husband was talking and you didn't listen to them? Probably never has happened. It's happened to me a few times. Okay? Be attentive. Be focused on them. You know, you go into I think everybody's probably been here or maybe done it, guilty themselves. Ryan's done it to me before. You go into, you're at this party and this person walks in and they're talking to you and you kind of walk up and you feel like, oh, they're talking to you, and you shake their hand and they're talking or listening to you talk, and they're kind of doing one of these things, you know. I'm talking and I'm kind of looking around and I'm kind of talking and all of a sudden I find the person I really want to talk to and, oh, hey, great to see you, and I walk. Was I attentive? No, right? Why spend time being fake? So be watchful. Be in the moment. This is huge in my opinion. Be thankful, right? We have to be thankful. We have been given so much already just by being in this freaking country. We've been given so much by being born. We've been given so much by being in this room. I think this is huge. Spend quality time, not quantity time, and that is part of that being attentive. You know, for those of you who have kids or really do anything, if you have a cell phone, does anybody have a cell phone with internet on it? All right. Have you ever caught yourself at a restaurant or anywhere in a conversation and your phone is either out or it buzzes and you check it in the middle of a conversation, right? I think we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Are you really spending quality time with people, with your business, with your passion, or are you spending quantity time? Are you just there? Right? So think about how you're spending your day and really spend some time and assess that. Right? I think that's super important, is we need to take some breaks and we need to assess how we're truly spending our day. Are we spending quality time or is it just quantity time? And think about it more than, it's about your business, but it's about your personal too. I would rather have you cut a half an hour or even an hour out of your family life and be completely focused on your family life while you're there than spending that extra hour not focused on them at all, right? That would be a lot more quality. All right, so let's get into some of the business stuff. If we want to scale, if we truly want to make this thing something other than us being at the property all the time, doing everything ourselves, if we want to have this, I think most of us are in real estate, at least most people I talk to want to do real estate because they want financial freedom. If you want financial freedom, you can't be doing everything yourself. That's not creating financial freedom. You have to build teams. Jordan, you've got property in Louisville and Austin, Texas. Do you fly there every time there's a problem?
Nope.
Do you drive there?
No.
With your toolbox?
No. I didn't fix anything when I was here.
You gotta find partners, right? Whether they're active partners, passive partners, it doesn't mean they have to be 50-50 partners, be in a partnership. It can be, but you've gotta find people to build a team around. You've gotta find your realtors, you've gotta find your lenders, your mortgage brokers. You've gotta find your property managers and contractors. Jordan's property's out of state, Is there a property manager?
Yep.
Third party?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You ever have contractors? You ever have any repairs that happen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And he's not driving down to that property or flying down there with his toolbox, right? He's building the team, a competent team that's going to allow him to continue to scale, right? With what I've built, with what George has built, with what some of you have built, you can continue to buy because you've done it the right way, right? We only have so much capacity if we're doing it all ourselves. You've got to hire people too. And that's beyond the third party. That's hiring people that are actually on your staff. And I'm talking a bookkeeper, an assistant, a VA maybe. You've got to hire people that can do some stuff for you. That is going to set you free. When do you hire? You hire before you think you're ready. Once you start asking that question, like, I wonder if when it's time to hire. It's time to hire. Okay? Unless you have nothing and you're asking that question before you've ever started. But usually we start, we get going, we get bogged down. We're like, oh man, I just need to work harder. Oh, I wonder when it's time to hire. I just don't have quite enough money that I'm not sure if it's time yet. Guess what? Here's the funny thing. When you hire, all of a sudden you start making more money. And now you're able to really pay that person. Okay? When you hire, you start making more money. And it's very quickly in my experience. So hire people before you think you're ready. You've got to build that team out. There was so many times where when I look back, I'm like, man, what a stupid decision. I didn't hire people early enough. And I still, to this day, continue to make that mistake of not hiring people early enough in my business. So it's challenging. We've got to do it. Building systems, we want to streamline this thing, right? We want to make sure we don't have to be there. We want to be able to go to Europe. We want to be able to spend time with our family and our friends. We want to be able to not be a slave to this business that we're trying to build. And we will be if we don't do it the right way, if we don't build systems. Write down what you do each and every day. And this is a practice that I would suggest you doing. Is write down what you do each and every single day. Take about 30 minutes and write it down. And do this for at least a week, but probably 2 weeks is the best. So you do this for 2 weeks. Write down every single thing that you did that day. I don't know how to do that. Somebody calling you? So take that and then grade it. Okay? Take those tasks and say, these are the tasks I did today, and put a grade behind them. 1 through 10. Okay? 1 being the crap that I don't like, and I feel like it's just wasting my time, and I could give that away pretty easy. 10 being the stuff I love to do, and is actually increasing and building my business. So 1 through 10. How cool would it be then to take those 1s and 2s and 3s and give them away? Give them to somebody else. That's your first hire, right? Then you take the 4s and 5s and 6s. That's your second hire. And you continue to do that. You got to continue to do this list, because trust me, as you continue to grow, more crap gets thrown on your plate that you don't want to do. So you've got to continue to do this list every year and inventory it and figure out what you're doing. Super important. I can remember when I was doing a lot of flips. I got so many stories, it's crazy. But I was doing a lot of flips, and I remember I had some systems in place, but I didn't have what I should have. And I was trying to do everything, right? And so my contractors are busy, they're on the job, so I'm gonna just pick up the materials for them. And I got a Nissan Altima, 2005 Nissan Altima, and I'm driving around with that thing. I'm going to Home Depot, Menards, I load it up, and I drive it around to my job sites and bring the materials in. And one time I'm at Menards in Fridley, or Columbia Heights, wherever. right there. And I'm driving into northeast Minneapolis, and there's a railroad track that you gotta cross from Columbia Heights. And I hit that railroad track bed, and I got concrete bags in my truck, or my car, and I got 2x4s, I got all kinds of stuff, and I hit that railroad track, and my car just goes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The whole back end just went boom, down, and I'm going driving, and there's a service station right here, and I pull off into that thing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I blew like the whole back end, all the shocks, everything, blew apart the whole thing. Several $1,000s later, I learned a valuable lesson. Do not go to Home Depot or Menards to pick up crap for your contractors. They can pick it up, and the other thing is, guess what I learned? I learned that Home Depot and Menards will actually deliver for you.
$50.
Wow.
It's like
You know what?
$50.
I got it for free. I was buying so much materials, they did delivery for free. And the other thing that they would do, and they still do this, I believe, is they would go to your job site and they'll make the material list right there for you. I know Home Depot does that. They still do that on my apartments, and we still use it. And they'll go to our job site, and they'll do the measurements for the cabinets. They'll count the light fixtures and all that kind of stuff, and the knobs and all that. And you say, hey, I want brushed nickel. I want, these types of cabinets. And they keep an inventory of that. And then when you got your next apartment that comes due, you say, yep, just like the last one. Boom. They know exactly what to order. Orders there, delivered. We didn't do much work at all. Instead of sitting at Home Depot and Menards and picking out crap for 3 hours and then breaking your car on the way. Don't do that. Surround yourself with successful people. You guys are here in this room. You're meeting people that are either successful or want to become successful and have that desire. People are here for a reason. You come to the North Star Conference, it's going to be the same type of people. They want to be successful or they're already successful. Those are the people you want to hang around with. Those are the people you want to learn from and grow from. If you want to add value to somebody that's already has success, you've got to figure out, though, how do you add value to them? You've got to focus on them and not on you. And that's really important. You've got to spend time with them. And you've got to build purposeful relationships. Here's the thing, is I get people that ask me, to spend time with them, and I'm happy to spend time with people, but my time is valuable and I only have so much of it. You've got to position yourself properly when you're just trying to meet with somebody. So what I would hesitate to do is you meet somebody that you really want to learn from, don't just go up to them and go, hey, whatever I can do to help you, I'd love to help, just let me know. Whoa, I don't have a clue who you are. What are you good at? I don't want to spend time wasting my time with somebody who I have no clue who they are, right? So you've got to get to know them. You've got to actually cultivate a relationship. You've got to ask them about their business. Learn about them. That's what's important. The other thing you have to realize is you don't always have to help them in their business, right? So maybe they got this big team and they've already got kind of the pieces put in place, and you go, I just don't have any skills that they would, forget it. They're not going to obviously want me to be around them, right? I'm just going to be a thorn in their side. Well, what if you're good at something they maybe want to learn how to do, right? What if you know how to play guitar and they want to play guitar? Or maybe they want to learn how to downhill ski and you're really good at that. Or maybe you've got a golf membership somewhere and they like golfing. Who knows what it is? But figure out how you can fill the gap. And that's a great way to actually get to know them. Do you have the same passion as them? Right? get to know people. And then the other thing is stay in contact. I don't know how many people reach out to me and they'll, or we'll have lunch or we'll have a coffee or whatever, and that's the last time I ever hear from them. They want to learn from you, but, or maybe they'll reach out to you maybe 8, 10, 12 months later, or see you a year and go, oh, hey. But if you actually want to learn from people, if you actually want to be around them, you've got to stay in contact with them, right? I think it's easy in social media to think, we can just stay in contact through Facebook, right? We can connect with them on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay in contact. And by the way, that's a good resource. It's helpful, but it's not the only thing, right? When I meet a new investor, we meet, we talk, we have a good conversation. I figure out what they're looking for, and I put them on my mailing list, right? And we send out our quarterly emails to them. So we're contacting them like that. But we also want to continue to try to have other contact with them to make sure we're staying in front of them. This is something I didn't even think was important when I first started this business, because I'm just buying real estate, right? Like, why do I need to market? But you always have to market. You have to build brand awareness. You have to let people know who you are. If you want to get taken serious in this business, people have to know who you are. They don't know who you are. Why are they going to bring you the best deal? Right? Why are they going to help you find the best people for your team? They're not going to. If they don't know who you are, nobody's going to help you. When people used to ask me, hey, what do you do? I would say, oh, I'm into real estate. Oh, you're a realtor. Sure. Because I didn't want to brag to people. I thought that was bad. But here, look, I raised money. I raised capital. And I bring investors into my deals. I provide people with money, an opportunity to invest in cash flowing real estate that will provide a substantial return on investment. I provide them an opportunity. If you know me, and I don't tell you what I do, and I don't have any brand awareness, and I kind of keep my lips sealed, and then you find out 5, 10 years down the road that you could have invested in my deals and doubled your money, and you had that money on the sidelines, you'd be kind of like, what's going on? Why didn't you tell me about these deals, right? I mean, I would love to invest in these deals. So tell people what you do. Make sure they're aware of it. If people don't know you're looking, they won't find you anything, okay? The other thing is when we're dealing with, especially when we're in my industry and we're dealing with commercial brokers, we want to make sure we look professional. So we want to create a website and professional email. I don't want it to be toddexheimer@gmail.com. I want it to be something professional. I want it to be todd@venturedproperties.com. Okay? I want it to be professional, and I want to have a website. It doesn't have to be a flashy, fancy website. Social media presence is always obviously important in today's age. And then attend events like these. And then if you have an opportunity, of course, take a speaking opportunity if you have that, or be part of a panel, whatever you can, or help out at conferences, at meetups, figure out what you can do to be involved in them. Don't wait to buy real estate, right? Heard it. Buy it, but make sure you actually can cash flow. If you're buying a rental, make sure we're actually cash flowing. Pay attention to the numbers, get to know the numbers. It's all about the numbers, in my opinion. Location is important, but numbers are the most important. If you can't cash flow, don't buy it. And if you think, well, it's a tax write-off, okay, good luck. Okay, because you're going to end up giving it back. Why do you want to lose money on real estate? It doesn't make any sense. It's not an investment then. If you want to lose money on real estate, if you're okay with that, give me the money, I'll go party, and you don't have it anymore, okay? It's a write-off. It's a tax write-off. All right. I wouldn't do that with your money, by the way. Go for a base hit though, not a home run. We don't always have to focus on the home runs. You're never gonna get anything done if you're just looking for that grand slam, that big hit. You've gotta get in the door. You've gotta go for a base hit. And the base hits end up turning out typically better than the home runs, or what you perceive as a home run. Okay? Because most of us perceive a home run, and then we find out that thing's a pig. You got to figure out how to get in the corridor. You're here, right? But if you need more help, then volunteer. Find a mentor. Find a partner. Okay? Figure out how to get involved. If you want to do what I do, multifamily syndication, you want to syndicate a 100-unit building or buy a 100-unit building, well, find people to partner with. Know what they're doing. And figure out how you can fill the gaps. Right? Find people with money. Help bring them into the deals. It's not as scary as what you might think. If you are going, holy crap, I could never buy in a 100-unit apartment building as my first deal, I know a lot of people that do. Okay? So if that's something that you go, that would be really cool, well, you can get there. You have to build a team around you. You have to build the partners around you. You have to come to events like this. You have to figure out different ways to get involved. You might not be getting the lion's share of that deal, but let's think about it. If you can get 10% of a 100-unit deal, who likes that idea? Like 10% of a 100-unit deal? Is that better than 0% of a 100-unit deal? I think so. Think big, you know, Donald Trump used to say it back when he was cool, we all loved it. Start small, but scale up as quickly as possible. That's a mistake that I don't know about mistake, but that's something I did. I stayed small for a long time, and I look back and go, wow, I really could have gone a lot bigger, a lot quicker. Okay? I just waited, I got comfortable, I got fat and happy. I didn't actually get fat, but kind of a little bit. Get outside of your comfort zone though. Make sure you're pushing. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're not succeeding, right? We have so much potential. Everybody here has so much potential. Why don't we want to achieve that potential? So push yourselves, get out of your comfort zone, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, but make mistakes. Be okay with that. And you got to make sure you take action. You have to start. You're not a real estate investor if you haven't started. If you haven't bought anything or not taking action, I got news for you, not a real estate investor. If you've bought one house and you aren't thinking about buying that next one and you're not taking action to try to buy that next one, you're not a real estate investor, you own a house. Okay? You've got to continue to take action. I'm sorry if I insulted some of you, but I'm not sorry because you need to actually take action. And the last thing, like I said, we all have so much potential. Build something bigger than yourself. At least that's what I want to do. It's not all about me. Build something bigger than yourself. Right? Build something that you can affect people in a positive way. That sounds pretty cool to me. All right, so quick recap. Write these down if you haven't. Education, be obsessed. Know your goals. Know your end game. Focus. Focus is huge. Follow one course until success. And again, are you spending quality time or quantity time? Spend that quality time. Build teams. Don't go about this business alone. It's easy to go, well, but if I bring in a partner, or if I hire other people, I'm going to make less money, right? Yeah, on one deal, right? But you're going to be able to do way more. You're going to be able to scale way faster. You're going to be able to fill in those gaps. We're not all good at everything. And if you think you are, you're wrong. Find people that can fill those gaps that you're not good at. We all have a superpower. Figure that out and get everybody else around you. Build your systems, right? Back when I was doing this business and had these rentals, I mean, I could tell story after story of stupid things that I would do because I was managing these properties myself, and I was doing some of the repairs myself. I mean, I remember I had a property in St. Paul, and my tenant was a bit of a criminal. And the police called me and said, you know, they're investigating this guy for dealing drugs and arms, and you know, I can't remember the exact time of events, but so I have that conversation. I've got my city rental inspection also, and I go for my city rental inspection, and the first time we went in, I believe the tenant wasn't home. We go in there anyway, and there's a ton of stuff wrong. So it gets rescheduled for the next one. I got I got all these things that I got to correct. So I show up the day before, or the day of, I think, the day of, and I got my list of stuff I got to repair. You know I can do it within whatever it was, an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever it was. So I give my tenant notice, say I'm going to be there. He says, okay. Show up, open the door, and the alarm goes off. Security alarm goes off. I'm like, whatever, I got to get this thing done, right? So I call the tenant, doesn't answer, try to punch in a couple codes, doesn't work. I leave a message, hey, I'm at your house, your alarm's going off, shut it off whenever you get this. And so I start to do some work, and I'm walking out of the house, I'm walking down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden 5 squad cars fly up on me. And they get out and, full pointing their guns right at me. And they're down on the ground. I'm like, jump down on the ground. I got my screw gun, in my hand. Drop the gun. I'm like, drop that. They come over. The one cop has an AR-15. I'm like, oh crap! I must look like a bad dude, They come, they pat me down, they ask me, who I am. I'm like, I'm the landlord. No, you're not. How do we know? I'm like, well, you can check my ID. It's right here. I'd reach back there, but I don't want to get shot. They throw me in the back of the squad car. They must have known that I probably was the landlord because they let me keep my cell phone with me, which is kind of funny because I'm taking pictures and texting my wife that I got thrown in the squad car. She's going to have to get me out of jail. And then they come back and they get me out. And I said, well, why'd you guys throw me in the squad car? And he said, because we didn't have to get a warrant to search the house because you were breaking in. I'm like, oh, okay. So they allowed, they used that, and they had somebody there training. But that just build systems so you don't have to be that person doing that, right? Build a team so you don't have to deal with that. I walked into another house, and that thing the basement was flooded, and I'm like, why? This basement's never flooded, and it hasn't been raining a bunch. Why is this basement flooded? So I walk down there, and I'm walking through, and I'm like, can't remember the lady's name. I said, can you flush the toilet once? She flushes the toilet. Sure enough, a bunch of turds come floating out. And I'm standing in this water. And I'm like, oh my gosh. The basement was covered between, it was an old Minneapolis basement, so it's kind of like this. So it was covered, though, with up to 4 inches of crap water. Full basement. Luckily, I did have some people working for me at this time. I had them come in and give them hazmat stuff. They sucked all that crap out of there. Literally crap out of it. But that's the stuff I was dealing with because I didn't build the right systems, right? I didn't have the right processes. So that's huge. I think that's the most important part as you get started, is build those processes and systems. Relationships, of course, are going to be massive, especially starting and then continuing to grow, because I grew my business through partnerships. Most of my partnerships were with passive investors, but I grew my business with active partners and passive partners. said, most of it was passive. The only reason I was able to do 150 flips in a short period of time is because I used a lot of private money. The only way I'm able to buy 100, 200 plus unit buildings is because I've got private investors investing in my deals. Make sure you're marketing. Always be marketing, building your brand. I've got a podcast for a reason. It's not just because I want to have a podcast. I have a podcast for a reason. It's to build a brand. I get a lot of investors for my podcast. I get coaching clients for my podcast. I get deals sent to me because of my podcast. And because of all the other stuff I'm doing constantly. Okay? People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And if you're not out there, if you're hiding behind the curtain, they can't know you. And if they can't know you, they don't like you and they don't trust you because they don't know you. Right? Take action. And the last one, think big. We have a ton of potential. We have an absolute amazing amount of potential. You've got to think big. All right, final thoughts. Don't take shortcuts. That's huge. Be persistent and consistent. And that's going to get you a long ways. Be persistent and be consistent. Right? We always want to be pushing. I always want to consistently be pushing. Once we decide we're going to take these big long breaks, or we're rock back in our easy chair because we've made it, guess what? We haven't made it. Learn to say no sometimes. It's okay to focus on what you're really trying to build and say no to all the noise. I have people present me with business opportunities quite frequently, and typically I say no to them because it's not my focus. And I don't want to get completely sidetracked in something that has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. Remember to be a human being and not a human doing. You got to make sure even though I said I'm obsessed. I mean, ask my wife. I'm obsessed. I spend a lot of time on real estate. I spend a lot of time thinking on it. I spend a lot of time in my spare time on building my business. But you've got to make sure you take care of the people that are around you that are important too. Right? The last thing, this is an exact quote, but this is by my buddy Mike Tyson. Be willing to get punched in the face. Make sure you get back up, ready to fight. Right? Jordan did give me permission to do this, but I'm going to do this. I've got this mastermind group I'm starting. If you guys want to do it, I want you to be a part of it. And so you do have to pay for it, but if you want to talk to me about it, we do a lot of cool stuff in here. We do one-on-ones, we do group calls, we do all kinds of stuff. So if you want more information on that, I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you on it, because that's not what this is about. But if you want information on it, I'd love to talk to you about it. There's my contact information, my email, my podcast, and then my coaching, especially if you want to learn more about that mastermind or really learn anything about what I'm doing in that realm. Definitely reach out to me. I think that's it. Did anybody have questions for me?
You mentioned the North Star Real Estate Conference. Who would be good to attend that conference?
Everybody. Yeah. Seriously, if you guys want to do anything in real estate, that's a great conference to attend. Matt, you attended it. Was it good?
It was awesome.
Who else attended it? Anybody like it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's not expensive. It does cost more than $5.
Yep.
But it's not expensive. We got an early bird discount. If you went there and you wanted to buy tickets today, the discount is called
Early bird.
Early bird. Okay. So that gives you $100 off for an early bird discount. Okay. So if you want to do it, I highly suggest it. Like you said, it's April 24th, 25th. I think you're making a mistake if you don't go, if you're serious about this business. And we're not making money doing this. The point is to provide awesome content for everybody.
What's it called?
North Star Real Estate Conference, nreconference.com. Early bird, you get $100 off.
Could you expand on like raising private capital, your tips, strategies, what you've learned throughout the years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole topic in itself. I could
Yeah.
spend 5 hours on that topic, but
Getting started with it.
yeah, getting started with it, I mean, honestly, all the stuff I talked about is probably key to it. You've got to be educated. So when I started, my first deal, I used private money on, other people's money. And so it's not that you have to have a ton of experience to be able to raise money, but you do have to know what you're doing, you have to be trustworthy, and you have to understand the numbers, you have to understand the business plan, you have to understand the market, and you have to understand the asset class. Of course, the bigger you go, probably the more experience you're gonna need to get a lot of people on board. But your first people that are gonna invest with you are gonna be people who've known you for a while. I think it's really challenging to get somebody like, I can't just meet you today with no experience and go, hey, I'm thinking about doing this real estate thing, and I need about $100,000. What do you think? You know, he's probably gonna go, yeah, that sounds great. I'll see if I know anybody, right? But I've got experience now, so it's easier to raise by people I don't know so much. But when you're first starting, you're gonna have to tap into kind of your natural network. Yeah, I mean, the first several deals I did was using other people's money. I think, again, be consistent, persistent. I mean, be marketing, be telling people what you're doing. Get educated first, understand what you're doing, and be very focused on it. That's the other thing I think a lot of people make the mistake of, is they go, how many of you have attended, I shouldn't say it because it's being filmed. How many of you attended a meetup before that has a presenter that's selling a course? And you see a bunch of people run to the back of the room and they pay for that course, right? And then you go to that same one maybe the next month or maybe a couple months later, and the next person's got a course. And it's funny because the same 15 people that ran to the back of the room, 10 of those people run to the back of the room again and they buy the next course. And that is over and over and over again. And they wonder why they never can get started. Because they've got zero focus, right? They're like that little squirrel digging for the nut and they can't find it because they buried it somewhere else. They have no focus on what they're doing. So that's really important, is you've got to, if you're gonna pick that you're gonna flip houses, then flip houses. Can you pivot and can you change and can you do something else? Yeah, but focus on that, right? Follow one course until success. Focus on that until you have success. If you're very detailed and you know what you're doing with that flip, it's gonna be a lot easier to raise that money. But if you're doing a wholesale, you're doing a flip, you're doing a house hack, you're buying a multifamily, you're buying mobile home parks, and you're doing all this stuff all at the same time, and nothing is successful, of course, because you're trying to do all this stuff. You're pretending like you're doing it. Nobody's going to take you serious. Did that help at all?
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can you talk about your most recent deal or an upcoming deal?
My most recent deal was a 224 unit apartment complex, value add, bought it at 88% occupancy, sticking about 10K a unit on average, interior, exterior work to it, and bring the occupancy, we should be able to bring the occupancy up to about 95% plus and raise rents by about 100. Well, we projected, I think, 90 a unit. We're already raising them to about 125 a unit. So we should be able to raise 125 a unit. B-class location. That's on that deal we raised, I don't know, right around $3 million for it.
How much did that increase your value?
Well, we're not done with it yet, so we don't, obviously everything's still up in the air, but it'll increase the value by, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I mean, probably 3 to 4 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that value add can be a nice little deal, right?
When going through and redoing, like rehabbing everything, do
Yeah.
you strictly use Menards and Home Depot, or do you go through like a company online?
Yeah, so right now, my contractors use who they use. Now a lot of them do use Home Depot. But they use who they use. We do some, like we have a cabinet vendor, we have flooring vendors, so we do, I guess, yeah, it depends on the product. I would, again, like, so if you're trying to control some of that stuff, I would be kind of paying attention to what's out there. Like Menards and Home Depot aren't probably your best solution for cabinets. You probably have a cabinet vendor that's going to be cheaper. Same thing with flooring. You probably have a flooring vendor that's going to be cheaper. It just depends on what it is, I would say.
Have you ever done like a cross collateralized loan to move into like another investment?
No. So you're saying bring in a property to collateralize against another property?
Yeah.
I've refinanced a property in order to use the proceeds from the refinance to buy more properties, but I haven't directly pledged a property to another asset. Because then it's tied together, and if one fails, they both fail. But if you can then, instead of doing that, so let's say you got a property free and clear, or maybe it's, I had a bunch of properties that were like 20 to 30% loan to value. And some like so much freaking equity sitting there. So I refinanced a bunch of those properties and was able to then take that tax free and buy a bunch of more properties with those proceeds. But they're now not pledged against any of these other assets. So if for some reason those go bad, these are still good.
Can you break down refinancing and how you pull the money from that?
Well, it depends on what you got. Depends on, I'm not a lender, but how I've done it is, first of all, I don't like refinancing based on value. I like refinancing based on cash flow. So I want cash flowing assets. If I wouldn't place a loan, if I wouldn't buy the building for the appraised amount, I'm not going to refinance just because it appraises for more. I'm going to refinance for the maximum amount that I would buy the building for, with a 20% down payment. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
So if I'm buying, let's just say I got a building and I go, hey, I would buy this building again if I could get it for $200,000. I'd buy it again for $200,000. But the appraiser comes in and he goes, hey, this thing's worth $300,000. I go, sweet, $300,000, 20% down. Now I can pull and I can get what's that, $240K of cash, right? 240K out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah. So I can get this loan for 240K, right? Oh, sweet. But if I would only buy it for 200K with the 20% down payment. So in that case, I'd only put that loan on it for the 160K, right? So that's what I mean by that. So I'd be conservative personally. I like the cash flow. So refi, I guess do it when it makes sense. You've got to look at your cost basis too. It costs money to refi. So do it when it makes sense. You don't have to pay money you don't have to pay the government money because you're just taking money out of the business. You're not actually profiting necessarily. But do be aware too of your tax implication or your implications when you sell that building. You pull a ton of money out of it, and then you sell it, you've got this huge windfall of profit. You might not actually have that much money, as much money as what you think, because of all this profit that you made and you pulled all the money out. So there are some things to consider. Of course, we can exchange that property if we have the means to it. So I mean, I don't know how to answer the refi question exactly, but there's definitely options.
Yeah.
You know, and just make sure you have equity. That's all. Good equity.
What's your opinion on like refinancing or using a HELOC to purchase more property?
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, I refinanced a bunch of my properties. Now, I kept my loan to value, quite honestly, at about 60%. Now it's, because the market has continued to raise, it's, my properties are probably at 40%, so I could refi again if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. I like low LTV on my properties. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, squeezing higher LTV is good if you want to continue to roll and expand. But you just got to be careful. Again, it's all about cash flow.
Right.
So what are you HELOCing? I mean, is there a home-owned personal house and you're putting a HELOC on that, and then you're leveraging another building and you've got everything super high leverage? You've got to think about, and I don't want to like be a doomsayer, but you've got to think about a recession and what happens during a recession. Can you withstand it? Right? That's the most important part. So you got to look at your own personal situation. What's your income? What's the cash flow on the building, including the HELOC and all that kind of stuff? Does it make sense to do it? The answer might be yes. I don't want to tell you not. But a recession will happen eventually. It might be 5 to 10 years from now. Right? Australia is on its 27th year of good times. They haven't had a recession. Could we be there? Yeah. Could we do that? Absolutely. I was just at a meeting today where an economist, top economist, was speaking at in Brooklyn Park, and he said he doesn't see a recession in the next 2 years. He doesn't think one's going to happen for at least 2 years. He said beyond that, you're on your own. But
Right.
you know, so I think it's just being prudent. When I buy my real estate, I always plan for a recession. Okay? So if you always plan for a recession, and a recession does happen, you're equipped to handle it. Right? But if a recession doesn't happen, well, hallelujah, right? We've got an awesome asset. So I always plan for a recession. So what I want to do is I want at least 3 main things. I want ample cash reserves. Okay? I want 6 months minimum worth of cash reserves, and that's principal and interest payments. So whatever my principal and interest payment, I want 6 months set aside. So if you do a cash out refi, take some of those proceeds and put them into that cash reserve. Okay? And then I always want to be growing that, right? I want to have cash flow. Okay? And I would suggest at least $100 a unit. And if you're at a single family or even a duplex, I would suggest quite a bit more than that. I think $250 to $300 for a single family, and at least $300 to $400 for a duplex. $300 probably at least total
Per month?
per month. Yeah.
Your stock point.
It cash flow. Like if you can get,
Oh, okay.
if you can get $150 a unit for a duplex, I think that's okay to look at a duplex. So I've said 2 things. So the third thing is you've got to have good financing in place. Right? Good, strong financing in place that allows you to be successful. What do you suggest for a duplex? You sell a lot of duplexes.
Around 150, 100 to 150.
Yeah.
It depends on the area too, quite a bit.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I said numbers are the most important thing, but area is also important. I mean, if you've got a duplex and it's in a solid location that has really strong occupancy, you know, and rents likely continue to go up, yeah, $100 a unit, that's fine. But if you're in like a little rougher area, has challenges during a recession, 100 a unit probably is not going to get you through, right? So I don't want to pick on any areas in the Twin Cities because I can't redline here, but you guys can probably figure out the areas that you might want to be more cautious in.
When, I guess especially when you first started, you said you raised private money for your first couple deals.
Yep.
Was that just to get in and then you kind of refinanced out of that later? And
Yeah.
then-
So when I started, I actually bought 3 deals all at once. Okay, so I bought one deal that my wife and I lived in. We got an FHA 2 or 3K loan. 2 or 3K? Yeah, FHA 2 or 3K loan. Got on, so that was like $5,000 down payment. Then we bought a rental house, and that was like the rest of our money in our piggy bank. Bless my wife. I don't know why she wanted me to do it, but she did. So that was another like 20K, and we didn't have any more money, but I found a flip. So I brought in a partner, and then we brought in a money partner as well, and we ended up taking that flip down. So those are all I bought all those within like a week or 2 of each other. So that I know it's like looking back, it's like crazy. Don't dive right in, you know. But yeah, I don't know. What was your question? I got off on my story.
I guess my concern is like, if we don't got a lot of money, or you know, I'm on track to get our first one on our own, like a duplex or some sort of multifamily, but stepping into that next one, you know, if we find private money.
Okay. I know how to answer this now. All right, so that deal was a flip. Okay, so it was fairly quick. I was able to give the investor back when we sold it. Okay, when I was doing some rentals, so if you're going to keep them, if you're going to use private money, you have to be very, very aware of where you can refinance that building and make sure you can get their money back, or you have money that you can give. Because you got to pay them off, or you make them an equity partner. I've done that a lot too. Especially when I was trying to scale, I would find people that had good jobs, that liked real estate, but didn't want to commit to actually being a landlord. And we would partner. We would do maybe 50-50, 60-40 partnerships, and they would put the money in the deal for the down payment, and we just 50-50 partnerships. And so there's ways to do it with other people. Now, again, are you giving up some of your profits? Yeah, you're giving up some of your profits, but you know what? What's half of that deal is better than none of it, right? So you've got to look at, does that make sense to do? So maybe even bringing in, instead of giving them that profit right away, you're delaying that profit through an equity share, if you can't refi. Yeah, so I did both. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. One more question. So, you talked about base hits versus home runs. Could you give like examples of that happening?
So I find a duplex that's got 2 occupants in it already. Both units need some work. Do the work on the units when let's say one tenant moves out, renovate that unit, get a new tenant in, do the other unit when that tenant moves out. Maybe make some good cash flow, okay cash flow, but it's in a good location, the numbers work. We're talking a nice, like in Northeast Minneapolis, or something that's good location. Okay, that's a base hit, right? Probably not gonna crush it. You probably bought it for, I don't know, Northeast, you might be able to buy a fixer-upper for $200,000 to $250,000.
250 to 275 maybe.
Yeah, but when you're all done and you've raised your rents, now it's worth $350, maybe even more. Okay, so you've done some work to get it worth more. That's base hit. Home run would be you buy something. It could be even Northeast, but probably not. But you buy something that's a complete disaster. It's got foundation issues, maybe it's condemned by the city. It's it's got some major issues, and you go in and you do that project, and you hope then to be able to charge massive rents and have it built in. But that building, if a couple things go wrong, it could put you under. So those are the risky buildings, right? Because now you've got this asset that's costing you money every single month. Could it be a home run? Absolutely. But could it be a pig? Yeah. I mean, you could lose your butt on something like that. And the bigger the property is, the more risk it's got, right? If you're buying a 20 unit, the same example, condemned 20 unit building, you've got some potential issues. You're going to have you're gonna be digging into your pocket, bleeding for, 6 months, maybe even a year. So,
What's your opinion on paying things off faster, like doing a 15-year loan versus 30, and how do you calculate that, or do you always just try to do as fast as you can and build equity quicker, have more cash?
yeah, I mean, look, that's an opinion, for sure. So I'll give you my opinion, because my opinion is different from other people's opinion. So my opinion is I want some of my portfolio to be low leverage. So I want to try to pay things off, and I want some of my portfolio to be normal kind of leverage. So I want a mixture of leverage risk in my portfolio. So I'm happy. I've got some that are on 15-year, and I've got others that are on 30-year. I've got some that I a little more aggressively refinance, and I've got others that I'm just, in another 5 years they'll be paid off, and I don't think I'll even leverage them again. I'll just keep them paid off. If you want to scale, and the faster you want to scale, you've got to be more risk averse, right, or more risk tolerant, and leverage as high as you can, and longer mortgages. 30-year mortgage is going to cash flow better than a 15, right? And so you're just not going to pay them out as fast. So again, it goes back to your goals in the beginning. Like, what are you really trying to achieve with this whole thing? Is it that passive income, or are you trying to build a massive business, or somewhere in between? And how quickly do you think you need to get there?
I'm in the process of just saving for the next property. I'm currently house hacking right now and kind of want to do the same thing, house hack in the new place and rent this place. As far as where I put my cash right now, what's kind of your opinion on that? As far as just sitting in the bank account and just plugging away, maybe low risk investments, what kind of?
Well, how long is it going to take you to get that money for the next property?
Like 2 years.
2 years?
2 to 3 maybe.
No,
at
then
most.
invest it in assets that can make you money. And there's crowdfunding, you can invest a couple grand at a time. There's obviously the stock market, which has volatility, but I would be investing. I would be trying to get 6 to 10% on my money versus 0.5%.
More of a
Quarter.
cash flow kind of investment compared to stocks that are more.
I mean, that's really up to you and your risk tolerance. I think, it really depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
You don't want to lock that money in for 10 years, right?
No.
You want to make sure everything you can get to
Right.
when you have time, so that's why stocks are probably good. I know we're in a real estate room, and that's kind of a swear word, but
Right.
stocks are still good.
Right.
I want to go back to your question a little bit. When I first started this business, my main objective was to build my rental portfolio as quickly as I could. And so with cash flow in mind, I refinanced every opportunity I possibly could and pulled out the maximum amount with still cash flow in mind, and did 30-year mortgages on everything, or 25 to 30, depending on what I could get. So I was buying a lot of properties with cash, or I'd get like a construction type loan, and the second I could refinance, I'd refinance and get all my money out, or as much as I possibly could, and roll it into the next property. So that brings, I just wanted to mention that because that's how I scaled my business.
So when you were starting off, were you holding all of your properties in your personal name, or were you using
Nope.
a different method?
When I first started this business, you could only put 4 loans in your name, and so I put 4 loans in my name, and then after that, I figured out different ways to do it. I partnered with some people. They put loans in their name, and then eventually I literally called minimum of 100, probably 150 banks in the Twin Cities to get loans. And I would call these local banks and I'd just say, tell them what I'm doing. I'm buying these, single families, duplexes, quads, whatever. And we're doing work to them. And then once we get them occupied, I'd like to get a loan on them. I got so many banks that tell me I'm stupid, I'm crazy. This is back in like 2010, 2009, 2010. Like, that's stupid, that's crazy, you're gonna lose your butt. That's the worst idea I've ever heard of. But I got enough banks that said, yeah, let's do it. And so I would finance, so it was commercial loan on a small single family or whatever.
So you just took the hit on the rate.
25-year AM, 5-year fixed. Even at the time, it was some of them were 3-year fixed, and I was paying 6.5% interest on them. 20 to 25-year AM, whatever I could get, I'd get. And I eventually found some good banks, and like most of my properties now, I still own a good portion of smaller properties in Twin Cities. Most of them are now on a 20-year AM fixed for 10 years. At like 4.25 or something like that. That was a sweet deal. All right, any other questions?
Do you do any Airbnbs?
No. It's a niche, and I don't wanna mess with it. I'm sure it's profitable. There's people that make good money with it, but it's just not my thing. Gotta know your lane.
Focus.
Did you have another question?
How does your coaching work?
We could talk about that one-on-one if you'd like. Yeah, I do, basically it's a mastermind type thing and some one-on-one, and so we can kind of have a conversation. I give anybody you wanna have a half an hour call with me, let's talk about coaching, and we can talk about your goals, talk about what you wanna do, we can have easily a half an hour call. And I'd be happy to do that with anybody.
So you're talking about like your most recent, are you, with all the value adds, are you flipping those, or are you just locking them in long term and just splitting the profits between all the investors? Or how do you kind of?
Yeah, so they're kind of midterm, so we're doing them, our plan is 5 to 8 year olds.
Okay.
So not super long. I'm looking at actually doing longer terms, but right now they're 5 to 8 year olds.
Okay. That's kind of how investors come into the mix.
Yeah.
This is our time frame.
Yeah, you gotta give a business plan, right? You gotta have a plan of action
Sure.
for people to get excited about something.
Right. Okay.
I have a quick question. Do you kind of see residential multifamily as being like a foot in the door type of way for people to get into real estate? Because I've heard different schools of thought. So maybe you start with that and then you work up into getting like 6 unit and then 16 and start scaling that way just for
Right.
economics of scale, or could you build a pretty big business with buying a lot of tris, quads, and whatnot? Because I know administratively it changes things, right?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at like true scaling, in your perspective, what do you think is the most effective?
Large properties. Yeah, you're looking at true scaling, large properties. So here's what happens, and this is my opinion, and this is what I've seen with companies, is when we're buying the small properties, we've got a bandwidth before we have some massive growing pains. Okay, so when we're buying these smaller properties, we can buy 100 properties, maybe a little bit more, but it gets really challenging to make that next jump to get true real scale. So you can do it, but I think you have to raise money or have a lot of money to be buying then large chunks of properties. So we can buy, a big portfolio of properties. When you look at like what, like Blackstone, they've done some of these imitation homes, some of these bigger companies that have done in the single family realm. They didn't buy one house here and there. They bought big portfolios of properties. They would come to an investor like me and go, hey, you've got 100 houses, we're gonna buy them all. And that's the way to scale. If you're gonna do it one at a time, I think you run into a roadblock once you get to about between 75 to 100, 150.
When you say properties, do you mean like single family properties, or
Yeah, like
even
one
like small
to,
multifamily?
yeah, small multifamily even, yeah. It's just challenging because you've got so many properties spread out all over, and we have to somehow build these teams around it, and it's just there's roadblocks along the way. I think once you get past a hurdle, you could probably do it, but you've got to somehow get past these hurdles along the way. So the easiest is to go with larger properties, whether it's multifamily, whether it's commercial, industrial, whatever it is. Bigger properties are gonna be the easiest to scale. Can you start there? Absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, I see people starting with 100-unit properties. I see people that do maybe a couple single families and then go, what am I doing this for? I'm gonna buy a 100-unit property. They don't necessarily have a ton of dough. They're raising the money.